In this video we're going to look in a little bit more detail at the circulatory system. Hang on, I get my pen working here. The circulatory system, there we go. So first of all, what is the circulatory system made up of? Well, it's made up of different parts, and one of those parts is the heart. And the heart's function, as you know, is to pump blood all around the body. The second part that makes up the circulatory system, or parts, are the blood vessels. And the blood vessels carry blood. And there's three different types. There's veins, arteries, and capillaries. And another part is the blood itself. So these are the main parts that carry it up. And today I'm going to look at the blood, and I'm going to look at blood vessels. So let's look at blood first. The blood itself is made up of different parts, but the main part that makes up blood is known as plasma. And what plasma is it's the liquid part of the blood. And it has two main functions. And its first main function is that it carries dissolved substances around the body. So its function number one is it transports or carries dissolved chemicals around the body. So remember, these blood vessels are all around your body. So if you want to get a dissolved chemical from one part of your body to the other part of your body, it's the blood that carries it. So what kind of dissolved chemicals am I talking about here? Well, in the last video we mentioned how our body needs food and glucose. So it carries glucose around. It carries oxygen around. It also carries carbon dioxide around, water, and other waste substances like urea, things like that. The second function of the plasma is that it regulates our body temperature. It regulates or keeps our body temperature at the temperature it needs to be. So an example would be if we are too hot, our body sends extra blood to our skin, and especially and this is why your face goes red. So if you're too hot, our body sends extra blood to your skin, or say to your face, and that's why your face tends to go red, and that allows more heat to kind of pass out of our body as we cool down. So that's a really important one. The blood helps to regulate our body temperature as well. Now, what else does the plasma carry? So what other parts of the blood are important? Well, there's three other main parts that you need to know. And the first part are the red blood cells. And the red blood cells are carried by the plasma as well. But the red blood cells have one main function, and that's they transport oxygen. So these red blood cells are specially designed to carry oxygen around our body. The next type of cell that is in the plasma, that's carried around by the plasma, are white blood cells. And white blood cells have a really important function as well, and you might have heard about them a bit in the news lately with all the virus stuff going on. And what white blood cells do is they basically fight infections. So white blood cells carry these proteins which are known as antibodies, and that's the word that you might have heard in the news recently. And what antibodies do is they attack viruses or bacteria that are in our body. So it's really important. This is basically our immune system here, or a large part of our immune system. These antibodies are the white blood cells, and they attack any viruses that come into our body. And the third thing that the plasma carries, or the third extra thing that the plasma carries, are known as platelets. And platelets are actually formed or made in bone marrow. And what platelets do is they form blood clots. So if you ever get a cut or anything like that on your hand, what happens is platelets are sent to that area, and then it clots, and it basically seals up the cut to protect your body so that no kind of foreign bacteria or anything that shouldn't be in your body can get into your body. So those four parts of the blood are really important, and they're parts that you need to know. You need to know what plasma is and what it does, and you need to know what red blood cells do, what white blood cells do, and what platelets do. So make sure you complete your notes and include this in your notes. The second thing I'm going to talk about in today's video are the different types of blood vessels. And it's just an introduction in this video, and then in the next video we're going to kind of link them up with the heart. But there's 3 types of blood vessels, ignore the dog there. The first type are arteries. And what arteries do is they carry blood away from the heart. Think of A for arteries, A for away. Now we haven't really talked about the heart yet, so I'm just kind of giving you this now before we speak to it to complete, or speak about it so you can complete your notes. Because they're carrying blood away from the heart and the heart is pumping that blood, there's a lot of pressure in arteries. There's high pressure. It's high pressure blood flowing, or high pressure fluid. So for that reason, they have very thick walls to withstand this high pressure. Thick walls which are strong to withstand the pressure. The next type of blood vessel are veins. And if arteries carry blood away from the heart, veins carry blood to the heart. Now, the blood pressure in veins is very low, and because it's very low, there's kind of a risk that blood can flow backwards. And for that reason, veins have these little valves in them. And what those valves do is they allow blood to flow in one direction only, basically. So they prevent blood flowing backwards. And the reason the pressure is a bit lower in the veins is because, well, the heart is pumping blood all around the body, but all the arteries lead away from the heart, so there's much more pressure there where the heart is kind of pushing away. And because they've low pressure as well, it also means they have thinner walls, they're not as strong. And the last type of blood vessel I'm going to do in this video, and you're going to be making notes on this from your book as well, is capillaries. Okay, oh, there's only one piece, sorry, capillaries. And capillaries are basically tiny little blood vessels. So these are the blood vessels that wrap around your cells and wrap around the villi and things like that. Tiny blood vessels. So usually what they do is they're found say around cells, etc. And what happens is the arteries come and they carry the blood to the cells, and that blood has all the oxygen and the glucose. It goes through the capillaries where it's dissolved into the cells, or it makes its way into the cells, and then the veins carry the blood away. So their function really is to allow materials to pass in and out of the blood as well. Well, that happens at the lungs. So these are the main kind of bits today. Now with arteries, veins and capillaries, don't worry, I'm going to talk a little bit more about them when we cover the heart. This is just an introduction to it. But what's really important from today's lesson that I really want you to learn off by heart is what are the parts of the circulatory system, and what are the parts of blood, and what are their functions.